In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But what happens after? When the bolter falls silent and the battle is done, what becomes of us? For the quadrillions of souls across the imperium of man and beyond, death is not an escape. It's barely even an end. It's a transfer. When your flesh fails, your soul, that spark of who you are, is cast adrift into a dimension of pure nightmare, the Immaterium. This is the terrible default state of existence. Every species with a soul, every faction, every single person must face this transition, but none face it the same way. This is the story of what comes after. The Immaterium, better known as the Warp, isn't some tranquil sea of departed spirits. It's a raging tempest of raw emotion and psychic energy, the home of gods and monsters. To those entities, a newly released soul is, at best, an insignificant mote of dust. At worst, it's a screaming beacon announcing that a fresh meal has just arrived. So let's start with us, humanity. For the uncounted, untold billions of ordinary humans, the factory workers, the hive slum dwellers, the common soldiers of the Astra Militarum, what awaits them? For most, the answer is a grim and perhaps merciful oblivion. A typical human soul just isn't strong enough to hold itself together in the churning chaos of the warp. Upon death, it's like a single drop of water falling into a predatory ocean. It dissolves. Your memories, your personality, your very essence just come apart, dissipating into the background psychic noise. It's a quiet, final end in a universe that is anything but. But what about faith? The Imperial Creed promises that the God Emperor protects the souls of his faithful. Serve loyally, worship fervently, and your soul will be drawn to his side to find peace in his golden light. It's a beautiful thought, a desperately needed beacon of hope. And while it's not just a story, the Emperor's power is real, and he can and does intervene to protect certain souls. It is by no means a guarantee. Think of it less as a promise and more as a desperate prayer. The brutal truth is that for most of humanity, faith is a shield for the mind in life, not an infallible chariot for the soul in death. An unlucky soul, even a faithful one, can still be spotted by a hungry warp predator and devoured before it has a chance to find either the Emperor's light or the peace of dissolution. If a normal human soul is a dim spark, the soul of a psyker is a blazing lighthouse in a hurricane. Psykers, those individuals cursed with a potent connection to the warp, have souls of far greater substance. But this is no blessing. It's a horrific damnation. When a psyker dies, their soul doesn't fade away. It holds its shape, its consciousness, its terror, burning like a star in the darkness of the Immaterium. And this makes them irresistible to the demonic predators that prowl the sea of souls. Instead of a quick end, the psyker's afterlife is an eternity of being hunted, tormented, and ultimately consumed in the most agonizing way imaginable. Their powerful soul is a feast for demons, its energy savored over subjective millennia of suffering. This is why the Imperium is so brutal in its control of psykers. It's not just about the danger they pose in life, but the unspeakable horror they attract in death. Even those psykers who serve the Imperium loyally face a grim end. Consider the 1,000 souls sacrificed daily to power the Astronomicon, the psychic beacon that allows humanity to travel the stars. They aren't sent to a heavenly reward. They are utterly consumed, their spiritual essence used as fuel to keep the light of the Imperium from being extinguished. A final, horrifying act of annihilation for the good of a species that fears them. No race understands the true horror of the soul better than the Aeldari. Their souls are even more vibrant and potent than those of human psykers, a terrible fact that led to their downfall. At the height of their civilization, the collective decadence of the ancient Aeldari birthed a new chaos god, Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure, she who thirsts. This cataclysm saw Slaanesh devour the souls of billions of Aeldari, and now that god has a specific terrible claim on every Aeldari soul. By default, when an Aeldari dies, their soul is dragged screaming into the warp, pulled inexorably into the maw of Slaanesh to be consumed for eternity. To escape this ultimate damnation, the craftworld Aeldari devised a desperate solution: spirit stones. Worn by every Aeldari, these gems act as a spiritual safe harbor at the moment of death, capturing the soul before Slaanesh can claim it. The stone is then returned to their craft world and integrated into its infinity circuit, a vast collective consciousness housed in the wraithbone core of the starship. Here, the soul joins its ancestors in a ghostly, dreamlike existence. It's a pale shadow of life, but infinitely better than the alternative. In times of war, these souls can even be placed into robotic wraith constructs to fight for their people once more. Their cousins, the Drukhari or Dark Eldar, chose a different path. They fled into the labyrinthine dimension of the webway, but they couldn't escape the slow, agonizing drain Slaanesh places on their souls. To survive, they must constantly replenish their spiritual essence by feeding on the pain and suffering of others. Their entire culture of piracy and torture is a frantic effort to keep their own souls topped up, to stave off the gnawing hunger of the god their race created. From the quiet oblivion of humanity to the desperate ingenuity of the Aeldari, we see a universe where the end is just the beginning of the terror. The story of the soul is central to the grimdark nature of Warhammer 40,000. If you find this tapestry of lore as fascinating as I do, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into this unforgiving galaxy. But what if you could just opt out? What if, to escape a terrible fate, you simply gave up your soul? This is the dreadful path of the Necrons. 60 million years ago, they were a biological species called the Necron tier, cursed with short, cancer-ridden lives. Burning with envy for the godlike and immortal Old Ones, they made a pact with star-eating entities known as the Khitan. The Khitan offered them immortality. The price, they would learn too late, was their very soul. In a process called biotransference, the entire Necron race was herded into colossal biofurnaces. Their flesh was burned away and replaced with shells of living metal. And as this happened, the Khitan feasted, gorging themselves on the torrent of discarded spiritual energy, consuming the soul of an entire species. The Silent King, leader of the Necron realized the betrayal too late. His people had their immortality, but they were now soulless machines. For many Necrons, especially the lower ranks, what passes for consciousness is little more than lingering programming. Yet for the nobles who retain their personalities, this soulless eternity is its own unique hell. They do not have an afterlife because they have no soul to experience one. When their metal bodies are destroyed, reclamation protocols typically phase them back to their tomb world to be installed in a new chassis. Death for them is merely a system reboot, a cold, hollow existence that some of them are now desperately trying to reverse. So what about those who don't fight the darkness, but embrace it? What becomes of the mortals who pledge their lives and souls to the chaos gods? For them, death is not dissolution, nor is it random consumption. It's a transfer of property. They signed a contract, and the ruinous powers always collect. The fate that awaits is shaped by the god they served. A devotee of Khorne may find their soul fighting for eternity in his realm. A follower of Nurgle will have their soul absorbed into his grotesque, ever-expanding garden of decay. Those who served Tzeentch face an eternity of being a pawn in the great game of endless scheming, their very consciousness a piece to be manipulated. And for the worshippers of Slaanesh, their final reward is to be devoured by their master. Unlike the vague hopes of the imperial cult, the damnation of chaos is horrifyingly concrete. To serve chaos is to willingly sign away your soul, ensuring it will become fuel, a plaything, or simply another part of the very god you worshipped. It is not an end, but a final binding transformation into an eternity of nightmarish servitude. From the quiet dissolution of the common man to the eternal damnation of the Aeldari, from the cold emptiness of the Necrons to the willing servitude of the Chaos Cultist, one thing is clear. In the 41st millennium, death is rarely an end to suffering. The soul is a currency, a food source, and a weapon. Whether it dissolves into the cosmic ocean, is devoured by predators, captured in a crystal prison, or forfeited in a dark pact, the soul's journey is almost always another chapter in a grim, dark story. The great lie of so many beliefs is that death is a reward, or a final peace. But in Warhammer 40,000, there is no peace. There is no release. There is only the terrifying certainty that when your life ends, a different and perhaps far worse existence is only just beginning.